In a culture that confuses speed with progress and distraction with productivity, boredom is misunderstood. We avoid it, we medicate it, but what if boredom wasn't the enemy? What if instead it was a mirror or a doorway? And the deeper in thought, heightened awareness, and a more honest self can only be achieved in walking through that doorway or looking into that mirror. We've engineered a world in which boredom barely exists. Every walk, every commute, every idle moment can now be filled. A voice in your ear, a clip on your screen, a notification, a buzz in your pocket. And that means the very moments we once had to reckon with ourselves, to process, to feel, to come alive, are now paved over with noise. I'm not here to romanticize boredom for the sake of being clever. This isn't about anti-productivity or some minimalist aesthetic. Instead, what I'm looking to reflect on is more about what it means to be awake to your life. Boredom, as we experience it today, is a relatively modern problem. For most of human history, life was typically structured around necessity, movement, survival, obligation. There was no such thing as dead time. Time wasn't something to fill. It was something you earned through labor or lost to it. In some sense, you can think of boredom as a luxury. The idea of being bored, of having nothing stimulating to occupy your mind is born from a place of abundance, from safety, from freedom. And yet, despite that privilege, we treat boredom almost like a failure. It feels uncomfortable, like something's wrong. But I imagine boredom is a luxury precisely because it opens a door that survival mode never could. It's in those empty spaces where no one's demanding anything of us that we can finally start to ask, what's actually here? What's actually real? And that's why reclaiming boredom is, in a certain sense, radical. Not because it makes us more productive, but because it makes us present. Because it shows us that we've been avoiding. Let's start with a myth. Boredom doesn't necessarily mean that you're lazy. It doesn't mean you're broken. It often means your mind is in a somewhat of a recovery state. When we're bored, the brain shifts into what scientists call the default mode network, a state linked to memory, consolidation, self-reflection, and creativity. It's in these moments when you're just staring out a window, doing nothing, taking a pause, that the brain starts connecting to aspects that you haven't explored before. It's almost like it's connecting the dots you didn't know you need connecting. Don't think of it as much of you zoning out as you zooming in. And zooming in internally. Productivity studies even suggest that some of the best ideas are generated often during rest periods. And I'd argue they're arguably more sustainable. Here's the paradox. This doesn't mean we should chase boredom as another productivity hack. We don't rest to get ahead. We rest to return. And to that end, in mindfulness practice, boredom is one of the first walls you hit. You sit, you breathe, and then quickly you realize your mind goes, oh shit. But boredom is often the first gate. It's not the final truth. It's not the full story. It's surface level. It's a surface level protest. A mind so conditioned to stimulus it forgets how to just be. Boredom isn't a sign of failure. Again, it's a mirror. It shows us just how uncomfortable we are with ourselves. And once you see that, without flinching, without fixing, I believe it has the potential to become a turning point. I used to reach for something every time boredom crept in, a podcast, a text. Now I try to pause and be present with that discomfort. Not to prove anything, but just to observe, to be present. Because underneath that boredom is me. It's me without distraction. And some days that's hard. And to see that individual, that person, that's harder to find in the day-to-day that we live. Now, in regards to performance enhancement, let's talk about skill, real growth. It isn't glamorous. It isn't dramatic. It's deeply repetitive. It's intentional. It's quiet. It's even boring. The best performers don't love the grind because it's exciting or there's a payoff within it. They learn to tolerate the monotony with presence, and in that way they embrace it and they make peace with it. Meaningful work isn't built on fast sprints or bursts of motivation. It's built in silence across long, often uneventful, monotonous, boring stretches. As a coach, I see this constantly. The athletes that I've worked with that have seemingly made the most drastic jumps or improvement are the ones that know that the magic to that trajectory is buried within the boredom. And it's no different outside of the athletic space. You want to feel alive? Try taking a walk without your AirPods in. You want to feel alive? Try doing your laundry or washing the dishes with full attention. Again, no music, no podcast, no stimulation whatsoever. Just your body, your breath, and the hot water, or the sound of the drum of the dryer as you load the wash machine. That's not punishment. That's a gift. It's quite the contrary. It's presence. It's mindfulness. And here's the part we ignore at our own peril. We're exhausted. Not because we aren't trying hard enough, but in some instances because we never stop trying. And not necessarily in an achievement way, but never stop trying to be engaged or entertained. Our brains need extended periods of disengagement to process the day's events. Typically this happens in sleep. To restore, to solve, to heal. When we fill every idle moment with stimulation, we rob our minds of the very thing that they were designed to do on their own. Sort out this mess. And that means when we're tired, uncreative and reactive, not because we don't care, but because we don't let ourselves reset, we're not living in an optimal state. We think almost we're being efficient, but we're actually bleeding clarity. Take some time. There's also a cultural element at play here. We've attached shame to boredom, as if having nothing to do means we're unimportant, unfocused, weak. I'd argue that modern life trains us to conflate activity with worth, but that's fake work. We're told that if we're not engaging, producing, or reacting, we're falling behind. But what if stillness isn't a setback? What if it's a strategy? Boredom doesn't mean you're off track. It may mean you're on the edge of something bigger. You just haven't let yourself arrive. We need to learn to sit in that space again, to breathe it in, to trust it. Practice that presence. Feel what it means to be real. But don't make boredom another project. Don't treat this like a self-help checklist. Just try some of these tactics. Next time you're in line at a store, don't pull out your phone. Sit in that space. Another idea is take one walk this week without your headphones. Or choose one task. Doing laundry, doing the dishes. Do it in silence with full attention. And when the boredom shows up, notice it, welcome it. Don't judge it. Because boredom is not a flaw in your experience. It's a gateway to it. And the more you can stand in that stillness, the more you'll begin to hear what your life is actually saying to you. You don't need to escape your life. You need to return to it. And by that I mean you need to sit with your feelings in a non-judgmental way. Boredom is not a problem, a malfunction. It's not a detour. It's the roadblock to clarity, creativity, and your deepest self. And I'd say from a performance perspective, paradoxically, it's only when we stop trying to extract value from every moment that we begin to feel whole in it.